Have you ever felt like someone was subtly using you, but you couldn't quite put your finger on how or why? Maybe you've sensed that certain relationships drain you more than they uplift you, leaving you wondering if they're built on genuine care or hidden motives. Imagine if you had a tool, a philosophy, that could help you navigate these complex emotional landscapes with clarity and resilience. What if you could discern manipulation from sincerity and protect your inner peace no matter what others say or do? In this video, we will explore 15 profound Stoic lessons that will help you recognize manipulative behavior and, more importantly, teach you how to avoid it. These lessons are not just tips. They are deep, practical insights grounded in Stoicism that will empower you to build stronger, healthier connections and defend your self-worth. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with the wisdom to spot red flags in relationships, uphold your dignity, and remain calm and composed in any situation. Ready to take control of your life and relationships? Let's dive into the first lesson. 1. Lack of personal interest, when your voice becomes a mere echo. One of the most telling signs of being manipulated is when the other person shows a lack of personal interest in what you have to say. Imagine sharing your thoughts, your dreams, and your feelings, only to have them brushed aside as if they're insignificant. It's like talking to a wall. Your words fall flat, and instead of engaging in a meaningful exchange, you find yourself in a one-sided conversation where only their opinions and stories matter. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you ever been in a situation where your voice felt like an echo, fading into the background while the other person dominates the discussion? From a Stoic perspective, this is a classic case of imbalance in relationships. Stoicism teaches us that mutual respect is the foundation of any healthy connection. When someone consistently shows a lack of personal interest, it's a red flag. Stoicism encourages us to ask ourselves, are we investing our time and energy into people who truly value us, or are we simply a convenience to them? Consider the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You cannot change how others behave, but you can decide where to invest your emotional energy. If your thoughts and feelings are consistently ignored, it's time to evaluate whether the relationship is worth maintaining. As a Stoic, it is essential to protect your mental well-being by surrounding yourself with people who engage with you, respect your voice, and value your presence. But how do you know when to walk away? Stoicism offers a guiding question. Is this relationship contributing to my growth and peace, or is it draining me? If the answer points to the latter, it's time to reassess. Remember, you are not an echo. Your voice deserves to be heard, respected, and valued. When we understand this lesson, we can move forward with confidence, knowing that our self-worth is not tied to how others perceive us. This brings us to our next powerful Stoic lesson: how to deal with guilt tripping and reclaim your emotional freedom. 2. Guilt tripping, the emotional trap that undermines your freedom. Guilt tripping is one of the most insidious forms of manipulation, often leaving you feeling emotionally indebted to someone for reasons that don't seem justified. Have you ever been in a situation where someone says, "After all I've done for you," or "I thought you cared about me," making you feel as though you owe them something? They use guilt as a tool to make you question your own intentions, pushing you into decisions that may not align with your values or desires. Do you find it difficult to say no in these situations? From a Stoic perspective, this form of manipulation targets one of the core aspects of human nature, our desire to be fair, compassionate, and kind. But Stoicism teaches us that acting out of guilt rather than reason is a betrayal of our own values. When guilt is used against you, it is essential to step back and ask, am I being led by reason or emotion? The Stoics believed that we should act in alignment with what is rational and just, rather than what pleases others. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This quote serves as a reminder that your decisions should not be driven by external pressures or manipulative tactics, but by your own rational judgment. When faced with guilt tripping, reflect on the Stoic practice of self-awareness. Pause and evaluate. Are you doing something because it aligns with your values, or are you doing it to avoid conflict and guilt? Stoicism teaches us to act according to reason, not emotional manipulation. It's important to remember that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self-respect. By saying no to what compromises your peace of mind, you're affirming your own worth. Stoicism emphasizes the value of self-control, which means having the discipline to resist emotional traps like guilt. The next time you feel pressured by guilt, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, am I acting out of fear of disappointing someone, or because I genuinely believe this is the right course of action? This simple question can shift your mindset and help you take control of your emotional responses. As you embrace this Stoic lesson, you'll find the courage to prioritize your peace and well-being over the manipulative tactics of others. With this lesson in mind, let's move on to another subtle yet powerful manipulation tactic, selective availability, and how you can recognize and avoid it. 3. Selective availability, the illusion of connection. Have you ever noticed how some people are only around when it suits them? Their availability is inconsistent, and they always seem to have an excuse when you need them most. This is what we call selective availability, a subtle form of manipulation, where someone keeps you at arm's length, engaging with you only on their terms. Think about it. Have you ever reached out to someone in a time of need, only to be met with silence, yet they expect you to drop everything when they call? This behavior creates a false sense of connection, making you feel like the relationship is deeper than it actually is. From a Stoic viewpoint, this inconsistency is a clear sign that the relationship lacks genuine reciprocity and mutual respect. Stoicism encourages us to recognize our own value and to avoid relationships that are imbalanced or one-sided. In relationships where selective availability is at play, you might find yourself constantly waiting for their call, waiting for their text, waiting for their support. But the Stoic mindset teaches us that we must not wait for others to validate our worth. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, advised, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In this context, it means that craving validation from someone who only offers it on their terms leaves you emotionally impoverished. As a Stoic, you must focus on what you can control, your own actions and reactions. If someone is only available when it benefits them, it's a sign that the relationship is transactional, not genuine. Selective availability is often a tactic used to maintain control in the relationship, keeping you in a state of emotional dependency. But remember, Stoicism is about cultivating independence, both emotionally and mentally. So how do you deal with someone who uses selective availability? The answer lies in the Stoic practice of setting boundaries. Just as you would protect your physical space, you must also guard your emotional space. If someone's inconsistency is causing you distress, it's time to reassess the value of that relationship. Ask yourself, does this person contribute to my well-being, or do they drain my energy? The answer will guide you in making decisions that preserve your inner peace. And while you reflect on this, it's important to remember that your worth is not dependent on someone else's attention. You deserve relationships where mutual respect and presence are consistently offered, not sporadically granted. At this point, we're only getting deeper into the core of what it means to protect yourself from manipulation through Stoicism. If these insights resonate with you so far, I encourage you to continue watching, because each lesson builds on the last. By the end of this video, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of how to apply Stoic principles to your relationships and safeguard your mental and emotional well-being. With selective availability addressed, let's explore another common manipulation tactic, diminishing comments, and how Stoicism can help you stand strong against them. 4. Diminishing comments. Words that erode your confidence. Few things are as damaging as diminishing comments, those subtle, cutting remarks that seem small but have the power to undermine your confidence over time. Have you ever shared an achievement with someone only to be met with a sarcastic, "That's it"? Or maybe you've confided your dreams only to be told, "Good luck with that," in a way that suggests you're aiming too high. These types of comments are designed to keep you in a state of self-doubt, making you question your worth and capabilities. Can you recall a time when someone's words made you feel smaller, even if just for a moment? In Stoicism, these comments represent external events, things beyond your control. The Stoic response to such words is not to suppress your emotions, but to understand and manage them. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. In other words, while you cannot control what others say, you can control how much power you give their words over your self-esteem. Diminishing comments are often a reflection of the speaker's own insecurities. When someone feels threatened by your success or aspirations, they may use subtle remarks to keep you in check. But Stoicism teaches us that self-worth is not determined by the opinions of others. Your confidence should be built on your own values, your own efforts, and your own inner strength. When faced with such remarks, Stoicism offers the wisdom to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, why is this person making this comment? Often, their words have more to do with their own fears than with your abilities. By understanding this, you can deflect the negativity and maintain your inner equilibrium. Remember, you are in control of your reaction, and in choosing not to engage with such pettiness, you remain true to your values. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who uplift and support us. If someone's comments are consistently aimed at bringing you down, it's time to reassess the value of that relationship. You deserve to be around those who celebrate your successes, not those who seek to diminish them. As we wrap up this lesson, think about the people in your life. Are there individuals who constantly belittle your achievements or dreams? If so, consider how Stoic principles can guide you in setting boundaries and maintaining your self-respect. With diminishing comments now behind us, let's explore another form of manipulation that can subtly erode trust: broken promises. 5. Broken promises. The illusion of commitment. There are few things more frustrating than someone who constantly makes promises but rarely keeps them. It's as if their words are like shiny baubles, meant to distract and entice, but ultimately meaningless when the time comes to deliver. Have you ever experienced this? A person commits to being there for you, offering their support or assistance, but when the moment arrives, they're nowhere to be found. These broken promises can leave you feeling disillusioned, questioning not only the sincerity of the person, but also the integrity of the relationship. From a Stoic viewpoint, the distinction between words and actions is clear. Actions are the true measure of character. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the context of broken promises, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, our response to the situation. We cannot force others to keep their word, but we can decide how much we allow their broken promises to affect us. When promises are made freely but rarely fulfilled, it's a sign that the person is more invested in the idea of appearing supportive than actually being supportive. Stoicism encourages us to observe these patterns and adjust our expectations accordingly. Ask yourself, is this person's word reliable? Or do their actions consistently fall short? By focusing on what is actually done rather than what is said, you can make more informed decisions about who to trust. But broken promises are not just a matter of trust. They also affect your emotional well-being. Every unfulfilled promise chips away at the foundation of trust, leaving you feeling disappointed and frustrated. Stoicism teaches us not to become bitter in these moments, but to view them with clarity and calm. As Marcus Aurelius advises, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In this case, stop hoping that others will change. Instead, focus on being someone who keeps their word and surround yourself with those who do the same. This lesson on broken promises leads us to another crucial Stoic principle: setting boundaries. If someone continually fails to live up to their commitments, it's time to set firm limits on how much you rely on them. You deserve relationships built on trust, where words and actions are in harmony. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever been let down by broken promises? How did you respond, and what lessons did you learn? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insights might help others recognize similar patterns in their own lives. Now that we've addressed broken promises, let's delve into a more extreme form of manipulation, emotional manipulation, and how Stoicism can fortify you against it. 6. Emotional manipulation, guarding your inner fortress. Emotional manipulation is one of the most destructive tactics used in relationships. Unlike outright deception, it's subtle, often cloaked in kindness or concern. It may start with a friend, partner, or family member who showers you with praise, only to subtly undermine your confidence later. They mix praise with criticism, making you question your self-worth, leaving you emotionally vulnerable and dependent on their approval. Can you recall a time when someone's compliments felt conditional, as though they were holding your confidence in their hands? Stoicism, as a philosophy, teaches that we must guard our minds against such manipulation. The mind, as Marcus Aurelius said, is the fortress we must protect. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote reveals a profound Stoic truth. No one can manipulate you unless you allow them access to your inner world. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions are within your control. Emotional manipulators often operate by making you feel unsure of your reality. They may say one thing, then later deny it, leaving you confused and doubting yourself. This tactic, known as gaslighting, can erode your trust in your own perceptions. But Stoicism offers a powerful antidote: self-awareness. By cultivating a keen awareness of your own thoughts and emotions, you can recognize when someone is attempting to distort your reality. Ask yourself, does this person make me feel more confident, or do I feel more anxious after spending time with them? If the answer is the latter, it's time to reassess the relationship. Another tactic emotional manipulators use is playing the victim, making you feel responsible for their happiness. They might say things like, "You're the only one who understands me," or "If you leave, I don't know what I'll do." While these statements may seem flattering at first, they are designed to create a sense of dependency, making you feel as though you are responsible for their emotional state. Stoicism teaches us that each person is responsible for their own happiness. You cannot control the emotions of others, nor should you feel obligated to sacrifice your peace for their well-being. In the face of emotional manipulation, Stoicism urges you to establish boundaries. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you from others. They are the guardrails that protect your mental and emotional health. Without clear boundaries, manipulators will take advantage of your kindness and exploit your desire to help. But remember, self-care is not selfish. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In this context, mastery means understanding when to step back and protect your own well-being. So, how do you apply this Stoic wisdom in your daily life? First, practice mindfulness. Be aware of your emotional responses when interacting with someone who may be manipulating you. If you notice feelings of anxiety, doubt, or frustration consistently arising, take it as a sign that something is off. Next, reflect on the relationship. Ask yourself, am I being respected or am I being used to fulfill someone else's emotional needs? This reflection will help you gain clarity on the dynamics at play. Finally, don't hesitate to speak up. Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress our emotions, but to express them with calmness and reason. If someone's behavior is causing you distress, have a direct conversation. Use I statements to express how you feel without blaming the other person. For example, say, I feel overwhelmed when I'm expected to be available all the time, rather than, you're always taking advantage of me. By framing the conversation around your own experience, you invite dialogue rather than conflict. Emotional manipulation can be difficult to identify because it often starts subtly. But Stoicism empowers you to see beyond the surface and understand the underlying dynamics. By protecting your mind, establishing clear boundaries, and practicing self-awareness, you can defend yourself against those who seek to manipulate your emotions. As we continue to explore Stoic principles, let's now turn our attention to another common form of manipulation, unilateral benefit, where the balance in relationships tilts in one person's favor. 7. Unilateral benefit, the one-sided relationship. Have you ever felt like you're the one constantly rowing the boat in a relationship, while the other person enjoys the ride? You give your time, energy, and resources, but when it's your turn to need support, you're met with silence. This imbalance, known as unilateral benefit, is a common sign of being used. The relationship feels less like a partnership and more like a one-way street. Can you think of someone in your life who always seems to take more than they give? In Stoicism, this imbalance is a clear violation of the principle of mutual respect. The Stoics believed that relationships should be built on reciprocity, where both parties contribute to each other's well-being. As Seneca wrote, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. This means that a fulfilling relationship is not based on constant giving or keeping score, but on a natural balance of support and care. So, how do you recognize when a relationship has fallen into the trap of unilateral benefit? One of the first signs is unequal effort. You might find yourself always initiating contact, planning meetups, or offering emotional support, while the other person rarely, if ever, reciprocates. Over time, this can leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, and even resentful. Stoicism teaches us to be discerning in our relationships, to assess whether they are truly serving our growth or simply taking from us without offering anything in return. Another sign of unilateral benefit is when your generosity is met with entitlement. The other person doesn't appreciate your efforts, they expect them. When this happens, you may begin to feel like your value in the relationship is tied solely to what you can provide. Stoicism urges us to recognize our worth as independent of external validation. You are not valuable because of what you give, you are valuable simply because you exist. When someone treats your kindness as an entitlement rather than a gift, it's time to reconsider the relationship. Setting boundaries is crucial in addressing this imbalance. If you feel that your efforts are not being reciprocated, it's essential to communicate your needs. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. This means that your inner peace should not be sacrificed for someone else's benefit. When you set boundaries, you are protecting your mental and emotional well-being, which is vital for cultivating healthy relationships. At the same time, Stoicism teaches us to be compassionate but not self-sacrificing. It's important to help others, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Ask yourself, Am I giving out of genuine care or out of a sense of obligation or fear of losing the relationship? This distinction is key to understanding whether your actions are aligned with your values. If you're giving out of fear, it's a sign that the relationship has become unhealthy. One practical way to restore balance in a relationship is to have an open conversation about expectations. Express how you feel and what you need in return. You might say, "I've noticed that I'm always the one reaching out, and it makes me feel like the relationship is one-sided. I value our connection, but I need more reciprocity to feel supported." This direct yet respectful approach aligns with the Stoic practice of assertive communication. By clearly expressing your needs, you give the other person an opportunity to adjust their behavior. However, if the person continues to take without giving, Stoicism encourages you to let go, not out of bitterness, but out of a desire to cultivate relationships that are balanced and fulfilling. As Seneca wisely said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. If a relationship consistently drains you without offering support in return, it may be time to walk away and make room for connections that uplift you. Unilateral benefit in relationships is a sign that you are being used. But Stoicism provides the tools to recognize this imbalance and take action to correct it. By setting boundaries, communicating your needs, and reassessing the relationship's value, you can ensure that your connections are built on mutual respect and support. As we continue, let's explore how broken promises contribute to manipulation and how you can protect yourself from their damaging effects. 8. Lack of genuine support. When you're alone in a crowd. Have you ever felt surrounded by people, yet utterly alone? You share your triumphs, your struggles, and your deepest thoughts, but instead of receiving genuine support, you are met with indifference or hollow words. It's as though your achievements are acknowledged with a polite nod, but nothing more. This lack of genuine support is a subtle yet powerful form of manipulation, leaving you feeling isolated in relationships that should uplift and encourage you. Can you recall moments when those around you seemed present but emotionally distant? In Stoicism, the absence of genuine support represents a failure to recognize the intrinsic value of human connection. The Stoics believed that true relationships are based on mutual care and concern for each other's well-being. Marcus Aurelius said, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them or endure them." This statement highlights the importance of relationships in personal growth. Yet when those around you fail to offer genuine support, it is a sign that the relationship may be more self-serving than mutual. One of the first signs of a lack of support is emotional distance. The people around you may be physically present, but they don't engage with your emotions. Whether it's a close friend, a partner, or a family member, their support feels performative, something they do out of obligation rather than a genuine desire to be there for you. In Stoicism, emotional distance in relationships can be seen as a lack of alignment between words and actions. While they may offer platitudes like, "I'm here for you," their actions, such as being absent when you truly need them, speak louder than words. So, how do you navigate relationships that lack genuine support? First, reflect on your expectations. Stoicism teaches us to examine what we can and cannot control. You cannot force others to support you in the way you desire, but you can control how you respond to their lack of engagement. Instead of becoming bitter or resentful, Stoicism encourages us to focus on cultivating relationships with those who genuinely care. Ask yourself, are these people truly invested in my well-being, or am I expecting more than they are willing to give? This reflection allows you to assess the quality of your relationships with clarity and wisdom. Another sign of a lack of support is conditional care. Some people only offer support when it benefits them or when it's convenient for them. They may be there when times are good, but as soon as you encounter a challenge, they disappear. This kind of support is unreliable and leaves you feeling vulnerable. Stoicism urges us to seek relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding, where support is offered not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. To address this, practice assertiveness in your relationships. Communicate your needs clearly, but without demanding or expecting more than the other person is willing to offer. You might say, "I really value your presence in my life, but I've noticed that when I need support, you're often not available. It's important to me that we can rely on each other." This approach, grounded in Stoic wisdom, allows you to express your feelings without placing blame, creating an opportunity for open dialogue. If the lack of support persists, Stoicism teaches us to let go with grace. As Marcus Aurelius advises, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In other words, if someone continually fails to support you, don't retaliate with bitterness or resentment. Instead, focus on becoming the kind of person who offers genuine support to others, and surround yourself with people who do the same. Genuine support is the foundation of any healthy relationship. But when it's lacking, Stoicism gives us the tools to recognize the imbalance and make informed decisions about where to invest our emotional energy. As we continue, let's explore how fair-weather friends can further undermine trust and how Stoic principles can help you discern their true intentions. 9. Fair-weather friends, the shadows that disappear in storms. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to be around only when things are going well? They are quick to celebrate your successes, share in your joys, and bask in the warmth of your good fortune. But when the storms of life hit, when you're struggling or in need of real support, these same people vanish like shadows in the night. These are the so-called fair-weather friends, those who are only present when it's convenient for them. Have you experienced this type of fleeting loyalty in your life? In Stoicism, the concept of fair-weather friends directly contradicts the Stoic ideal of a virtuous friendship, one built on mutual respect and steadfast loyalty, regardless of circumstances. The Stoics believed that a true friend stands by you not only in times of success, but also in moments of hardship. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This principle reminds us that we are in control of how we perceive the actions or inactions of others. When you find yourself abandoned by fair-weather friends, the Stoic response is not to feel bitter or betrayed, but to recognize that their absence reveals the true nature of the relationship. Epictetus offers another profound reminder. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, the disappearance of these friends during tough times does not harm you, unless you allow it to. Their behavior reflects their character, not yours. So, how do you navigate relationships with fair-weather friends from a Stoic perspective? First, observe patterns of behavior. Do certain people only show up when things are going well for you? Do they disappear when you're facing challenges? Recognizing these patterns is crucial in determining who your true friends are. A Stoic remains emotionally grounded, focusing on actions rather than words. While someone may claim to be a friend, their true loyalty is shown through consistent support in both good and bad times. Next, accept reality without resentment. Stoicism teaches us that we must see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. If someone consistently proves to be a fair-weather friend, accept this reality without bitterness. Marcus Aurelius urges us to receive without pride, let go without attachment. This means acknowledging their role in your life, but not becoming emotionally dependent on their presence. A fair-weather friend is not a true friend, and Stoicism encourages you to release the emotional hold they may have on you. But does this mean you should cut off every fair-weather friend from your life? Not necessarily. Stoicism advises discernment. You may still enjoy spending time with these people in good times, but you should not rely on them for support when challenges arise. Instead, reserve your deepest trust and loyalty for those who have proven themselves to be true friends, those who stand by you no matter the weather. In addition, Stoicism teaches the value of resilience in the face of disappointment. When fair-weather friends disappear, view it as an opportunity to strengthen your inner fortitude. Every moment of abandonment is a chance to practice emotional independence. The Stoic approach is to build an inner world that is self-sufficient, so that when external support fails, your peace of mind remains intact. As we conclude this section, consider the people in your life. Are there individuals who seem to fade away during difficult times? How do you respond to their absence? Remember, Stoicism empowers you to take control of your reactions and let go of expectations that others may not meet. True friends, those who support you in both joy and sorrow, are rare gems. Cherish them and release those who are only present when the sun is shining. Having examined the transient nature of fair-weather friends, let's now delve into another manipulative behavior that often goes unnoticed: one-sided conversations. 10. One-sided conversations, when your voice is silenced. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where it feels like you're simply a prop in someone else's monologue? No matter how much you try to engage or share your thoughts, the other person dominates the dialogue, leaving little room for your voice. These one-sided conversations are more than just frustrating. They're a subtle form of manipulation, where your thoughts and feelings are consistently disregarded. Does this sound familiar to you? Stoicism teaches us that a healthy relationship is built on mutual respect and communication. In a balanced conversation, both parties contribute, listen, and engage with each other's ideas. However, in a one-sided conversation, you are relegated to the role of listener while the other person takes center stage. This dynamic can leave you feeling undervalued and even invisible. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Yet in one-sided conversations, this principle is completely ignored. From a Stoic perspective, these interactions are a sign of disrespect. The other person's refusal to listen to your thoughts or engage with your ideas shows that they do not value your perspective. As a Stoic, you must ask yourself, am I being treated with the respect I deserve in this conversation? Or am I simply a sounding board for someone else's thoughts? If the answer is the latter, it's time to reassess the dynamic. One of the core tenets of Stoicism is the principle of self-respect. Stoics believe that we must value ourselves enough to demand that others treat us with dignity. In the case of one-sided conversations, this means recognizing when your voice is being silenced and taking action to assert your presence. Marcus Aurelius teaches, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you allow yourself to be continuously silenced, your self-worth will diminish. But by standing up for yourself, you preserve your integrity and reinforce your value. How do you deal with one-sided conversations in a Stoic way? First, practice assertiveness. You don't need to dominate the conversation in return, but you do need to make your voice heard. If someone is consistently monopolizing the dialogue, gently steer the conversation back to a more balanced exchange. For example, you might say, "I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I also want to share something that's important to me." By asserting your need to contribute, you establish a sense of equity in the conversation. Another Stoic approach is to set boundaries with individuals who consistently engage in one-sided conversations. If someone repeatedly disregards your voice, it's a sign that they may not value your presence. Ask yourself, is this a relationship that fosters mutual respect, or am I merely a sounding board for someone else's ego? If the latter is true, consider distancing yourself from that person, or at the very least, limiting the depth of your engagement with them. Stoicism teaches us that we are not obligated to endure disrespect simply for the sake of maintaining relationships. In situations where one-sided conversations occur, Stoic detachment can be a useful tool. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means maintaining emotional distance from things that do not serve your peace of mind. If you find yourself in a conversation where you are being silenced, rather than becoming frustrated or resentful, practice detaching from the situation. Observe the behavior without letting it affect your self-worth. As Epictetus advises, seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves. Finally, it's important to reflect on the relationships in your life. Are there people who consistently engage in one-sided conversations, leaving you feeling unheard? Stoicism encourages us to cultivate relationships that are balanced, where both parties respect each other's voice. If certain individuals repeatedly dominate the conversation, it's a sign that the relationship may not be as healthy as it seems. By applying Stoic principles, you can navigate these interactions with clarity and protect your own sense of self. With one-sided conversations addressed, let's explore another powerful tool of manipulation, broken promises, and how Stoicism can guide us through the disappointment they bring. 11. Broken promises, when words don't match actions. Have you ever trusted someone's word, only to be let down by their failure to follow through? Broken promises are a common yet devastating form of manipulation, where someone offers grand gestures or commitments, but when the moment comes to act, they are nowhere to be found. These broken promises can leave you feeling betrayed, disappointed, and even questioning your own judgment. Have you ever relied on someone's promise, only to find yourself alone when you needed them the most? In Stoicism, the concept of broken promises contradicts the Stoic ideal of integrity, where actions should align with words. Stoicism teaches that our character is defined by what we do, not what we say. As Epictetus wisely noted, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, intentions are meaningless without the actions to back them up. If someone repeatedly makes promises they don't keep, it's a sign that their words are empty and that their integrity is lacking. Broken promises can also be a form of emotional manipulation. The person making the promise may use their words to make you feel secure, only to abandon you when you need them most. This leaves you in a state of emotional limbo, constantly hoping for something that will never come. Stoicism teaches us that we must not become attached to the promises of others, especially when those promises are not supported by consistent actions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors, unless with a view to some mutual benefit." This means we should not obsess over why someone broke their promise, but instead focus on how we can maintain our own integrity and peace of mind. So, how do you handle broken promises in a Stoic way? First, adjust your expectations. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and we cannot control the actions of others. Instead of placing your trust in someone's words, observe their behavior over time. Are they reliable? Do they consistently follow through on their commitments? If not, it's time to reassess the relationship. By lowering your expectations of those who have repeatedly let you down, you protect yourself from future disappointment. Another important step is to communicate your feelings. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, but about expressing them in a calm and rational manner. If someone has broken a promise, don't hesitate to let them know how it has affected you. For example, you might say, "I was really counting on you to follow through, and it hurt when you didn't. I value reliability in my relationships, and I need to know that I can trust your word." By expressing your needs clearly, You give the other person an opportunity to change their behavior. If the broken promises continue, Stoicism encourages you to set boundaries. If someone repeatedly fails to keep their word, it's a sign that they do not value your trust. At this point, it's important to limit how much you rely on them in the future. As Seneca advises, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Surround yourself with individuals whose actions align with their words, and distance yourself from those who consistently let you down. Finally, remember the Stoic principle of acceptance. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, people will fail us. Stoicism teaches us to accept these disappointments without allowing them to disrupt our inner peace. When faced with a broken promise, ask yourself, am I letting this person's actions dictate my happiness? If the answer is yes, it's time to shift your focus inward and cultivate emotional resilience. By applying Stoic principles to the pain of broken promises, you can protect your peace of mind and build relationships based on mutual trust and respect. Let's now explore another aspect of manipulation, superficial closeness, and how Stoicism helps us see through the illusion. 12. Superficial closeness, the illusion of connection. Have you ever been in a relationship or friendship that felt emotionally close on the surface, but lacked true depth and sincerity? These connections are often based on convenience rather than genuine care, creating the illusion of intimacy while keeping you at arm's length. You might spend time together, share stories, and even laugh, but when it comes to real emotional investment, the bond feels shallow. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever realized that a relationship you thought was close was, in reality, just a facade? In Stoicism, superficial closeness is a direct violation of the Stoic principle of authenticity. The Stoics believed that real relationships should be built on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine emotional engagement, rather than on convenience or pretense. As Seneca once said, friendship is always helpful, whereas love sometimes injures. This wisdom suggests that true friendships, those built on a foundation of mutual respect, are beneficial, while relationships rooted in superficiality can cause harm by fostering false expectations. So, how do you recognize superficial closeness? One of the key signs is inconsistent emotional support. The person may be present when it's easy or convenient, but when you need real emotional support, they're suddenly unavailable. Their attention is fleeting, and they're quick to withdraw when the conversation shifts from light-hearted banter to deeper, more meaningful topics. Stoicism teaches us to value genuine relationships, where emotional investment is mutual and consistent, not based on convenience. Another hallmark of superficial closeness is hollow promises. The other person might frequently talk about future plans or commitments, but when the time comes to act, they always find a reason to back out. These empty gestures create the illusion that the relationship is more meaningful than it really is. But Stoicism encourages us to observe actions, not words. Epictetus reminds us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This means that we must not get attached to the empty words of others, but instead focus on how their behavior aligns with their promises. In dealing with superficial relationships, Stoicism teaches us the value of discernment. Ask yourself, is this person truly invested in my well-being, or are they simply enjoying the benefits of a convenient relationship? By reflecting on the depth of the connection, you can begin to see whether the relationship is built on mutual care or if it's merely a surface-level interaction. Marcus Aurelius offers a powerful piece of advice. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This means that the relationships we cultivate have a direct impact on our emotional well-being. If you surround yourself with superficial connections, your emotional life will reflect that shallowness. To navigate these relationships, Stoicism encourages us to establish boundaries. While it's not necessary to cut off every superficial connection, it's important to recognize them for what they are and adjust your expectations accordingly. Don't rely on these individuals for deep emotional support or trust them with your most vulnerable thoughts. Instead, invest your energy in cultivating relationships that are based on genuine closeness, where both parties are equally invested in each other's growth and well-being. If you find yourself consistently disappointed by someone's lack of depth or emotional engagement, consider having an open conversation. You might say, "I value our friendship, but I've noticed that we don't seem to connect on a deeper level. I'd love for us to be more supportive of each other in meaningful ways." This Stoic approach to communication allows you to express your feelings without placing blame, and it creates an opportunity for the other person to reflect on their behavior. But if the relationship remains superficial despite your efforts, Stoicism teaches us to let go without resentment. As Marcus Aurelius wisely advised, receive without pride, let go without attachment. This means accepting the relationship for what it is and releasing any expectations that it will become something more. By doing so, you free yourself from the emotional burden of disappointment and open the door to more authentic connections. Superficial closeness can be deceiving, creating the illusion of emotional connection without the substance to back it up. But by applying Stoic principles of discernment, boundaries, and acceptance, you can protect your emotional well-being and focus on building relationships that are truly meaningful. Let's now move on to another subtle manipulation tactic, selective availability, and explore how Stoicism can help us recognize and respond to it. 13. Selective availability, the subtle control of presence. Have you ever had someone in your life who seemed to always be unavailable when you needed them, yet expected you to be available at their convenience? This behavior, known as selective availability, is a subtle yet powerful form of manipulation. It's a way for the other person to control the dynamics of the relationship, keeping you in a constant state of uncertainty about their level of commitment. Can you think of someone who only seems to reach out when it suits them, but is absent when you need them most? Stoicism teaches us to recognize such behaviors for what they are, attempts to manipulate and control the relationship. Selective availability is often used by people who want to maintain power in a relationship, making sure that they dictate when and how the interaction takes place. As Marcus Aurelius advises, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. This wisdom reminds us not to get caught up in the behavior of others, but to focus on our own actions and integrity. The first sign of selective availability is inconsistent communication. You might reach out to the person when you're in need, only to be met with silence or excuses. But when they need something, they expect an immediate response from you. This imbalance creates a sense of emotional dependency, where you're constantly waiting for them to be available, but they never prioritize you. Stoicism encourages us to reject this dynamic and to reclaim control over our emotional lives. Another key aspect of selective availability is the illusion of busyness. The person may frequently claim to be too busy to respond or spend time with you, but somehow they always find time for other people or activities that benefit them. Stoicism teaches us to see through this illusion. As Epictetus advises, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. In other words, actions speak louder than words. If someone truly values you, they will make time for you, regardless of how busy they are. Their consistent unavailability is a sign that they do not prioritize the relationship as much as you might think. To address selective availability, Stoicism encourages us to set clear boundaries. If someone's inconsistent presence is causing you distress, it's important to communicate your feelings and establish limits on how much emotional energy you invest in the relationship. For example, you might say, "I understand that you're busy, but I need to know that I can count on you when it matters." If that's not possible, I need to reassess how much I rely on this relationship. This Stoic approach allows you to express your needs without demanding more than the other person is willing to give. Another Stoic strategy is to practice emotional detachment. Stoicism teaches us that our happiness should not be dependent on external factors, such as the availability or attention of others. If someone is consistently unavailable, rather than feeling hurt or frustrated, practice detaching from the outcome. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By focusing on what you can control, your thoughts and reactions, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of selective availability. Ultimately, Stoicism empowers us to recognize when we are being manipulated by someone's selective availability and to take back control of our emotional well-being. If the relationship continues to feel one-sided, with the other person dictating the terms of engagement, it's important to reassess the value of the connection. Ask yourself, does this person contribute to my growth and happiness, or are they simply using me for their own convenience? The answer will guide you in making the necessary changes to protect your inner peace. As we move forward, let's explore a more aggressive form of manipulation, constant competition, and how Stoicism helps us break free from the toxic dynamics of comparison. 14. Constant competition, the unspoken battle for superiority. Have you ever felt like every interaction with a certain person was a competition, even when there was nothing to compete over? Whether it's about who has the better job, who is more successful, or who has the most exciting life. Some people turn every relationship into a constant tally of achievements and failures. This toxic dynamic of constant competition erodes trust and creates a sense of rivalry where there should be support. Does this remind you of anyone in your life? Stoicism teaches us that relationships should be based on mutual respect and the pursuit of virtue, not on the desire to outshine one another. In a healthy relationship, both parties encourage each other's growth and celebrate each other's successes. However, in a relationship built on competition, the focus is always on who is winning or losing. As Seneca wisely noted, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. In this context, the person who constantly competes with you is often driven by their own insecurities and desire for validation. One of the signs of constant competition is the need to one-up. No matter what you achieve or share, the other person always has to top it with something better. If you tell them about a recent success at work, they immediately counter with their own accomplishment. If you share a personal struggle, they minimize it by comparing it to something they've endured. This behavior is not about mutual growth, it's about maintaining a sense of superiority. Another sign is indirect comparisons. The person may not always directly compete with you, but they subtly compare themselves to you in ways that make you feel inadequate. For example, they might say, "It's great that you're working hard, but I've always found that taking time for yourself is more important," implying that their way of living is superior to yours. Stoicism teaches us to recognize these behaviors as reflections of the other person's insecurities rather than as valid judgments of our worth. In response to constant competition, Stoicism encourages us to rise above the need for validation from others. Marcus Aurelius offers this wisdom. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. In other words, your self-worth is determined by your own values and actions, not by how you compare to others. When faced with someone who constantly competes with you, practice detachment from the comparison. Their need to compete has nothing to do with your personal value. To navigate these relationships, Stoicism advises practicing compassion without engagement. Recognize that the person's competitive behavior stems from their own insecurities and unmet needs, but don't engage in the competition. You can acknowledge their feelings without participating in the rivalry. For example, if they try to one-up your accomplishment, you might respond by saying, "I'm happy for you," without feeling the need to defend your own achievements. Another powerful Stoic tool is self-reflection. Ask yourself, am I allowing this person's need for competition to affect my sense of self-worth? If the answer is yes, it's time to shift your focus inward. Stoicism teaches us that true contentment comes from living in accordance with our own values, not from external validation. As you cultivate this inner contentment, the need to compete with or seek approval from others fades away. Constant competition is a toxic dynamic that undermines relationships and fosters insecurity. But by applying Stoic principles of self-reflection, detachment, and compassion, you can protect yourself from being drawn into the unspoken battle for superiority. Let's now examine one of the most fundamental forms of manipulation, disregard for your emotions, and how Stoicism helps us reclaim our emotional power. 15. Disregard for your emotions. Reclaiming your emotional power. Have you ever noticed someone consistently ignoring or dismissing your feelings, as if your emotions are irrelevant or unimportant? This behavior, often subtle but deeply damaging, is a clear sign of manipulation. When someone disregards your emotions, they undermine your sense of self-worth and attempt to take control of your emotional landscape. It might come in the form of brushing off your concerns with statements like, "You're overreacting," or "It's not that big of a deal." Have you ever found yourself questioning your own emotions because someone else diminished them? In Stoicism, one of the fundamental principles is recognizing the importance of our own perceptions and feelings, while not allowing others to dictate or control them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom serves as a reminder that, although we cannot control how others treat us, we can control how we react to that treatment. When someone disregards your emotions, Stoicism encourages you to acknowledge your feelings without letting their dismissive behavior affect your sense of self-worth. One of the signs of emotional disregard is invalidating your experiences. The person may consistently downplay your struggles or achievements, making you feel as though your emotions are an inconvenience or exaggeration. Stoic philosophy teaches us that it is not our external circumstances that define us, but how we perceive and respond to them. When faced with someone who minimizes your emotions, it's crucial to remember that their dismissiveness is a reflection of their own limitations, not a judgment on the validity of your feelings. Another sign is the lack of empathy. In healthy relationships, there is an inherent understanding that each person's emotions are valid and deserve to be acknowledged. However, when someone disregards your emotions, they often show little to no empathy for your struggles. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate self-awareness, recognizing when others are failing to meet our emotional needs and responding with clarity and resilience. Ask yourself, am I surrounded by people who honor my emotions, or am I in relationships where my feelings are consistently ignored? To navigate situations where your emotions are being disregarded, Stoicism offers a valuable tool: emotional detachment. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings, but rather acknowledging them without letting others dictate how you should feel. When someone dismisses your emotions, instead of internalizing their judgment, practice detaching from their opinion. As Epictetus advised, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By reclaiming your emotional power, you prevent others from controlling your inner state. Another Stoic strategy is to communicate assertively. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of reason and calmness in communication. If someone is disregarding your emotions, calmly express how their behavior affects you. For example, you might say, "I feel unheard when my emotions are dismissed," and it's important to me that my feelings are acknowledged. This type of assertive yet respectful communication reflects the Stoic ideal of equanimity, remaining composed and in control even in challenging interactions. However, if the disregard for your emotions continues despite your efforts to communicate, Stoicism encourages you to set boundaries. Boundaries are essential for protecting your emotional well-being and ensuring that you are not continuously subjected to manipulation. As Seneca wisely stated, associate with people who are likely to improve you. If someone consistently disrespects your feelings, it may be time to distance yourself from that relationship and seek connections where your emotions are valued. Ultimately, Stoicism teaches us that our emotions are our own to manage, and we should not allow others to dismiss or invalidate them. By practicing emotional detachment, communicating assertively, and setting boundaries, we can protect our emotional power and maintain inner peace in the face of disregard. As we close this section, take a moment to reflect. Are there people in your life who frequently dismiss your emotions? How can Stoic wisdom guide you in reclaiming your emotional strength? Now that you've journeyed through these powerful Stoic lessons, consider how you can apply them in your own life. Which relationships in your life are helping you grow, and which ones may be draining your energy? Stoicism invites you to reflect deeply on these questions and take decisive action to ensure that you are not merely reacting to life, but actively shaping it in a way that aligns with your inner values. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stoic wisdom and its profound relevance to modern relationships. I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. What resonated with you? Have you noticed any of these manipulation tactics in your own relationships? Let's continue the conversation and learn from each other's experiences. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with those who could benefit from this wisdom. Together, we can build a community grounded in the principles of Stoicism, where we support each other's growth and well-being. Thank you for your time, and may you continue to walk the path of wisdom with strength and clarity.